Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who know me know that I'm happier talking about leather finishing rather than tanning. So today I'm happy, very happy to have a friend and a colleague of mine. We call him the Professor of Wet End at ATC, Michel Deville. So he's here to deflect all the nasty questions that you may have directed at me by some of you. Thank you, Richard. So with further ado, I shall delve into a subject that I think I last delved into about 28 years ago, so it could be fun. Hopefully it'll be entertaining and enlightening. So I'd like to talk today about pickle-free chrome tanning process that ATC have modified and developed over the years. Quite an interesting subject. Almost every lecture that we've heard today, somebody's mentioned something along the lines of chemical hazards and risks, environmental issues, legislation, and during this process, am I getting some feedback here? Do I sound okay? Okay, sorry. Thank you. I'm gone. So this is one of the most fundamental processes that any of us know about in the industry, the actual tanning process using chrome. It's been around such a long time. What ATC have done, or tried to demonstrate, that it's possible to take a process that's been around for a long time and has hardly modified it occasionally in some forms, but we've developed a method that we can actually show improvements in quality during the chrome tanning process, save you time in the process. There's ecological benefits with less wastage going into the effluent treatment facilities, less chemicals being used in the whole process. There's a safety benefit as well, less handling of chemicals in the tannery, and this has an effect on improving the cost of the whole process. So what I'd like to do first is go back to school, to a general tanning theory that I should know really, really well, but it's been a long time. But during the process of practicing for this presentation, it's going in again. It's starting to make sense. But generally what we can say about chrome tanning is the two-stage process where if we make the pH of the leather low, then the carboxyl groups are within the skins, carboxyl groups within the hides of skins are not ionized. Therefore they're not reactive, so the chrome can penetrate through the substrate. Conversely, if you raise the pH, then the carboxyl groups are ionized and a reaction process takes place. This is fixation, cross-linking of the chrome to the fibre structure, giving you tanning process. I'm sure we're all familiar with that process. I might need this. If we look here at a traditional chrome tanning process that may be familiar with many of you, we can see basically low floats, quite a lot of salt being added into the system, formic acid, sulfuric acid to adjust the pH to get that acidity that we need to get the penetration. Then after the chrome is added, running for a while, using magnesium oxide as the basification method to end the penetration process, giving you fixation, and a typical process we should all agree. If you look at the acidic conditions that we're handling the hides or skins in, we see that we're looking at pH between pH 2 and 3. We know from the swelling curve that there is a potential to have a non-reversible acid swelling and subsequent damage to hides and skins in that area of pH. So what do we do to counteract that? We add a lot of salt to raise the bome up to prevent the acid swelling. So fundamental stuff that we all learned back in school. Let me see. So just going back to that formulation again, we can see that we have in the traditional system we're using lots of salt, plenty of formic acid, lots of sulfuric acid, lots of sodium formate, magnesium oxide, and take note, we've got 6% chrome powder used in a typical system. Around the world, some people use more, some people use less, but so we use this as a typical traditional formulation. So if we look at the system that ATC have developed, we see a process after deliming and baiting, very simple, short float. At this point I need to make an apology that I'm well aware that the SLTC is not a platform for me to promote the products of our company. Shouldn't be used in that way. I apologise because I am doing, but it's very difficult to talk about this process that ATC have developed without actually mentioning the product itself that we primarily use. And it's also included as a handout leaflet in all of your visitors packs, so there's no getting away from it. I'm going to mention the product. But for those of you who take offence to this or find it a little bit uncomfortable, just every time I say Pickle NSA, just pretend I said product X. That makes it any easier. So looking at our process, it's obvious, it's so much easier. It's why aren't we all doing this? It's short float, running 2% of product X for about 90 minutes to make sure it penetrates through the hides, and adding the chrome and the natural process of running the chrome in the process drops the pH. So starting off deliming and baiting around about pH 7. 2% of Pickle NSA, running between 60 and 90 minutes. You can check the pH drops to around about 5. Check with Bromacris on green. Add the chrome tanning powder into the drums. Run for approximately 2 to 3 hours. During that time, the chrome is penetrating, and continuation of that process will get you the fixation that you need. What we see the difference between this process and the previous traditional process is we're not using any salt. So is there a fear of acid swelling? So let's have a look at the swelling risks. If we see the traditional pH range where we're beginning our tanning process compared to where we are during the pickle-free process, we're sticking between 4 and 5. So we're not subjecting the leathers to that danger of the non-reversible swelling. We sort of recommend keeping the bome of between 3 and 4 just to prevent any danger at all in the process. If we look at the actual product itself, product X, mixed with water, gives you a bome in a low float system. It gives you a bome of 5 already just on its own. So that's let's go back to that one. So that's already higher than we require just on its own. Bome of 5. If you add chrome powder with a low float, you get a bome of 10. So adding Pickle NSA, product X and chrome powder and a low float as well. We're up at Beaumais 12 without salt. So there's absolutely no danger of getting any acid swelling during the process. You don't need all that salt. So how does it work? This is the bit I might need you, Michelle. So what we have is NSA forms a complex with chromium. I'm going to have to read this bit because I've got to get it right, otherwise I'll be in trouble. So NSA contains dicarboxylic groups. So after about 60 to 90 minutes, the chrome is added in the system. There's a complexing effect. This complexing molecule is chrome and NSA together. It's next slide. It has zero astringency, so it's not reactive to anything. So once the chrome's combined with the NSA, it's not going to react to fibre structure, and you can get easy penetration with mechanical action of the chrome throughout the thickness of the hides or skins. So you get a filling effect from the chrome. So here you see a diagram of the grain and the chrome NSA complex penetrating happily through through the surface, right through the middle and out the other side, with no astringency, or astringency masked, sorry, no fixation and full penetration. After about 45 to 60 minutes of the process running, the masking effect starts to slow. So the complex is within the fibre structure. Leather has a greater attraction for the chrome. The masking effect slows. The complex then breaks. Then the chrome is left within the fibre structure. It's attracted more to the fibres than it is to the NSA, so it's fixed to the fibres. The NSA is then released to find more chrome, which it does from the float. So this cycle goes on. Complexing of the NSA and the chrome, penetration and breaking of the complex within the fibre structure, and fixation of the chrome onto the soon to become leather, and the NSA released again to go back into the float to get the next chrome. So this continues essentially until there is no chrome left for the NSA to capture and bring into the leather. So the result is extremely exhausted bath. So at this point, the pH of the system is below 4, so any need of basification is completely unnecessary. So there's no magnesium oxide needed to alter the pH there. So I'm sure you agree it's a much simpler, faster, cheaper, safer process on the appearance of it. So you can use it on any sort of chrome tanning, on sheepskins, goats. The thicker the substrate, the harder it is to work. And we've actually, when you start to get up to unsplit hides, then this process, as we've outlined it today, is a little bit more complicated. We need to do a sort of a semi-process, like a halfway between a traditional process and this one. But certainly for split hides, it's perfectly capable to run this process in the way that I've described. So let's look at some examples. Go through it again with some suitable pictures. So we're taking fleshed and split hides after liming. So pH is up there at 8.2. We're adding a new float, 35 to 50%, depending on what the tannery capabilities are, what's possible within the system. 20 degrees C, Obviously, the higher the better, in a certain degree, but as you run, the temperature will increase anyway. So we're adding 2% active pickle NSA to this float, running for 90 minutes to make sure it's penetrated throughout the hide. We can check the pH there with pre-salt green to see that the penetration is good throughout the delining process. Then we are adding chrome powder at somewhere between 4.5 to 5.5%. We've actually in the laboratory run this process as low as 4% and maintains good tanning and shrinkage temperature above 100. But people in the industry seem to be quite scared of playing around with this process for some unknown reason. So successfully throughout the world there are tanneries using chrome offers of 4.5%, 4.5 to 5% successfully without a problem. And if you're talking of 4% chrome compared to 6% in the beginning, that's 30-odd% less chrome that you're using within your tanneries, which is a significant saving, and obviously has a knock-on effect to all the other parts of dealing with the process. So after 3 hours of running the chrome, you can see from the picture, hopefully, that you've got full penetration of the chrome. After 3 hours, we continue to run overnight, very simple process to monitor. And you can see from this photo that after 1 hour, you can see penetration is quite good. It's not easy to see, but you can see there is a little bit of lack of chrome getting through the centre after an hour. 2.5 hours improving, but certainly after 4 hours, fully penetrated. 5.5 hours looks great. Running overnight, 12 hours into the morning, you can see how well the leathers are plumped up.
Something interesting to notice is the color. You can see the color of the wet blue after 1 hour, and the color at the end. You see the same blue color, the same nice blue color that we are aiming, and this is to show that it is a type of chain reaction. That means the tanning starts immediately and progress with the time.
Okay. So we also talked about how the process is reducing the chrome. Where's this extra chrome coming from? We're putting less in, but we're getting a better result. So the secret is actually the exhaustion of the tanning bath. Here are some photos of an actual trial that we ran in production. So we've got liquor samples after 1 hour, 2.5. After 4 hours, you're already beginning to see a little bit of transparency in the liquid. 5.5 hours, pretty damn good. And the following morning, I'm sure Michelle actually drinks it when the laboratory more or less. So it's a better tanning process, or getting more chrome onto your leather by using less and putting less into the effluent treatment plant. So technical results based on consumption. Just going through the process again. 0 salt, 0 formic acid, 0 sulfuric acid. Not necessarily the expense of using these acids within the tannery, it's the danger incorporated with using them and storing them. And in fact, in one particular part of the world, this NSA process has become really popular because there is no sulfuric acid allowed in the whole country. It's been banned by the government because apparently it's used to manufacture some other white powders that I know nothing about. So poor old Columbia uses a lot of the NSA process, which is quite interesting. So chrome going from 6% down to 4 or 4.5%, 5.5%. 0 magnesium oxide, and final leather never gets below 3.8, so you have perfect safety and no danger of acid swelling in the process. Plus you're saving, you can save the overnight pickling process. You can knock 4 to 6 hours off the whole process of tanning, so it seems to be a win-win-win all the way. But that's just my opinion. How do we know it's properly tanned? That's a good question. Shrinkage temperature is always a good indicator. So if we could get a shrinkage temperature of over 100, normally you would need something in the region of 2.5 to 3.5% of chrome fixed, Cr2O3 fixed onto the wet glue. In the classic tanning system, we've tested some samples and liquors run alongside our own trials and seen 2.7, 2.8% fixed and exhaustion of the final bath over 80%, 85% exhaustion rate. So if you compare it with our process, we're actually remarkably fixing a lot more of chrome onto the leather, even at a lower dosage. And the exhaustion rate of the bath is up at 96%. So quite an interesting process. So just to put that into context regarding a bulk lot, if you had a 5-ton run of hides, we're looking at a difference of in a classic system compared to our system, 400 kilos of salt, don't need any in our system. Traditional system, sulfuric acid 40 kilos, none in ours. 50 kilos of formic acid, sulfuric acid 50, none in ours. We're using no anti-pickle NSA product X in classic, 100 kilos or so in ours. Chrome 300 kilos, that drops to 250 at 5%. Magnesium oxide, 25 kilos in a traditional process, and none at all in ours. So total weight of chemicals used, 815 kilos in a classic process, we're down at 325. So chemical consumption reduced by 60%. I think that's quite impressive. So, thank you very much.